Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here. It's Sunday, so I'm on the road. I figured I'd make a quick video on doing my first deal within wholesaling lease options. And I'm gonna take this from, I guess, from the time that found the buyer up until the time of closing, because that was really, I mean, it's tougher to do this. I guess this video is going to be helpful for someone who doesn't have a coach or a mentor that's holding their hand along the way, right? As I am, there's no one I can really call to ask them what to do, what's the next step, and things like that. So I'm just kind of figuring this out on my own. But this one actually came from a seller that I called on Craigslist, and I actually have the video, which maybe I'll link up at the top when I learn how to do that. It was a live call. It was the first live seller call, if you go back to the playlist that I had in a house in Barre, Massachusetts. So got that one, got him to sign a letter of intent, which gave me permission to go out and find a buyer. Ironically, the seller found the buyer for me. How funny is that? From their network, they actually referred someone over to me regarding a rent-to-own. They actually showed the house themselves. So before I even knew about the buyer, the seller had already met with them. They already shown them the house, and then they told them to call me to take the next step. So the buyers end up calling me. I give them next step forms to fill out, just an application, and they fill it out. They get it back over to me. I see they have a good amount that they could put down. They could put down at least $10,000 up front. It appears, all right, so on the application, it looked like they were pretty good. So I sent them over to Paul Ritter, who's at mycreditteam.com. I believe that's the site. And they brought back the screening. So the buyers paid the $50 to get the screening done. The screening comes back. They're 18 and 24 months away, recommended, to get approved for a mortgage. It was really a credit problem. They have good income. They have a good amount they can put down. They just needed to fix their credit, which is probably most people that would be good candidates for, rent to own. Okay, so we got the screening back. I sent it over to the owners. The owners approved them. They were qualified and everything. So the next step after that was to, at that step, what I would usually do, what I've learned, was to set up a buyer's meeting. So I would meet them at the house and have them sign a buyer letter of intent explaining the terms and how much they'll need down at the closing and things like that. But since they had already met with the sellers, I figured I could just skip that step, and I just emailed them the buyer letter of intent, and asked them to mail me a deposit of $1,000. So that's exactly what happened. I emailed them the buyer letter of intent. They signed happily, and they mailed me a check for $1,000, which I posted in the wholesale and lease option group, that $1,000 deposit. All right, so the next step after that, I had been in talk with an attorney who doesn't really specialize in these transactions. Maybe this is a separate video in and of its own, because it's really hard to find an attorney, at least from my experience, who has done any type of terms transactions, let alone one where you assign a lease option back over to the seller. I mean, that's completely foreign to probably 99.9% of attorneys out there, right? So I'll probably give you some tips at the end of this video on how to find a good real estate attorney and how I went about it. But for now, just to keep this video concise, what I did was, at that point, I sent the buyer letter of intent that the buyer signed over to the attorney so that they can draft the official lease purchase paperwork. So that's exactly what they did. They drafted the paperwork. We set up a good time for the buyers to meet with the attorney. Good day and time to do that. And then, I didn't have to show up. I probably should have shown up, looking back on it, because I had not even met with the attorneys. Our communication was all over the phone. They didn't know me. I didn't really know them. We just had conversations back and forth, what I was looking to do. They thought they understood it. They didn't really understand it. But they drafted the lease purchase paperwork between me and the buyer, at least. They knew that much. And the buyers signed the lease purchase paperwork. So now the next step after that, and they also put down a $10,000 option deposit plus first month's rent plus a $595 attorney fee. We call it a processing fee. These are tips that'll probably help you out. So I literally didn't have to pay the attorney. The buyers paid the attorney. I called it a processing fee. That's a good tip. So the buyers paid the processing fee. They paid the first month's rent, and they paid a $10,000 non-refundable option deposit up front with the attorney. Now, the attorney, my agreement with the seller is to split that option deposit 50-50. So therefore, I've already collected $1,000 deposit. I'm sorry. So they put down $9,000 because they've already given me $1,000. So I would keep $4,000. The seller would get $5,000 plus first month's rent of $2,000. And that's how that would work. The next step after that was to have the sellers sign the assignment paperwork, and we still have to record a notice of option. So at this time, what's today's date? Today's like the 18th, I think, of March, Sunday. And we still haven't done that. The buyers actually moved in on Friday because that was the expected and the anticipated date was on the 15th. But the attorneys were kind of dragging their feet with, so they have to record an option, a notice of option, so that the world can know that these buyers have an agreement with the seller to purchase the house. They have the option to, and the sellers can't sell the home from under them, right? That's the whole purpose of that. We also need the sellers to sign the assignment paperwork, basically releasing me from the transaction in a general release form. So when the attorney sent that paperwork over to the seller, I got a voicemail like as soon as possible. I got a call as soon as possible. I wasn't available, so she left me a voicemail. Pretty angry. She saw that I was the owner of the property. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'm just letting you know that it's a good idea to have a face-to-face meeting with your attorney and have a really good understanding of what you're looking to do. And I ended up doing this as soon as I got that the buyer paperwork in. When the buyer signed, that's when I drove out there. They're about an hour and a half from me. I met with the attorneys, and we had a much better general understanding of what we're looking to do. But yeah, I'm just going at this. I'm going at the. Just whatever I know, I'm taking action, right? So literally, at one point, I didn't know how to talk to sellers. I learned that. And then I didn't know what to say when I'm on the appointment. I learned that. And how to get a contract signed. I learned that. How to talk to buyers. I learned that. And now I'm at the point where how to get this thing closed, right? and I'm still learning that. So I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what's ahead, especially if you don't have help, anyone that you can call or talk to, and step by step, which would probably be huge. It would happen so much easier for me, I'm sure. But not everyone's able to do that, right? So you just got to go with what you have. Just start where you stand, right? So that's where I'm at in the process. I literally haven't technically gotten paid yet, even though the buyers moved in, even though all the paperwork signed. The sellers had the paperwork, the assignment paperwork and the general release form. They wanted to have their attorneys look at it prior to anything else. So I'm not even sure how it's going to go down, but I'm pretty confident just because I have a reasonable seller, I have a flexible seller, I have an honest seller. We've had good communications together, and I had a motivated buyer who was very patient during the process as well, and I have an attorney who wants to work with me in the future. So we're all looking to get it done. We're all good people, in my opinion. Meaning, I think we're all doing good business. There's some trust level there, so I think it's going to end well. With me getting paid the remaining amount, but I'm just letting you know it probably is a good idea. I mean, if I were to tell someone who's just starting out, I would say first get good at talking to sellers. First get good at just pick up the phone and call people off Craigslist, Zillow. That's literally what I do. Zillow, Craigslist, for sale by owners, for rent by owners. Learn how to talk to them. Learn how to find out if they're a good prospect or if they're a suspect. Learn what to say. And then that's kind of what my seller videos are for, my live calls, which I will be doing more of. Another tip, I actually dropped the ball on consistently talking to sellers, trying to get these deals closed. Because right now I have about 3 properties now that I'm still trying to get closed and need to actively market, right, on a daily basis on Craigslist and whatnot. So now I have a VA doing that now. But it's a lot, in addition to my other job, which I'll probably talk about as well. I'm a real estate agent. I do a lot of rentals in the Boston, Brookline area. So I do that full time, right? And trying to hold this, not dropping this ball with with the buyer side and the seller side. So I literally dropped the ball with the seller side, not making many calls, which I don't recommend that you do. When you start getting good at getting properties under contract, still find time to call sellers. Don't ever drop that ball, which I did. But I'm gonna get back on it. So post more seller videos. Where was I talking about? Yeah, get good at talking to sellers. Get good at going on the appointments before you ever worry about the attorney or closing stuff. I'm just kind of letting you know what's ahead. Get good at going on the appointments, knowing what to say, things like that. Just practice. You're gonna suck at it at first, like I did, and then you'll eventually get to the point where you're confident meeting face to face, booking appointments, and then you're at the point where you're marketing, right? Marketing for buyers for the properties that you now have under contract, and then it's talking to sellers. It's building up your buyer systems as well. You want to get good with your buyer systems because you're going to get a lot of calls from people who are not qualified, other agents. I got a call today from an angry agent for whatever reason. I don't know why they get called. I got calls from so many agents, but that's why I have it go to voicemail. I don't talk to anyone. I don't answer any incoming calls anymore. They all go straight to voicemail. Then I call them back if it makes sense. Well, I lead them to a video, and then if they can either watch the video or get back to me, I'll never hear from them again. So have your buyer systems in place. Again, after you're good at getting contracts. And then once you have your buyer systems in place and you start getting buyers, I would say right around the time where you get your first contract, start looking for an attorney. And I said I was gonna do a different video for that one, but I'll just kind of touch upon that right now. When I say start looking for an attorney, what I did is I used the Massachusetts referral network of attorneys, and they would just send me referrals. I talked to about 10 of them and asked if they have any experience with terms. Some said yes, some no, some were open to discussing. I've talked with about 2 of them that I actually signed an engagement letter with and did business with, and I chose one to do this deal with. But I would, right around that point is when I would start looking for an attorney, asking around, go to your real estate clubs maybe, and see who's doing deals. Most of those clubs I found, they deal with, it's either wholesaling or buy and hold or fix and flip, not necessarily terms. When I say terms, I mean owner financing, lease purchase, wholesaling, lease options, right? Sandwich lease options, these things. But if you can, great. Find someone that's already doing it. Make your life easier. So right around that point, start looking for an attorney. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be much smoother for you than it was for me, your first one. But that's just a brief story on this first deal, which again, the buyer's already moved in. Most of the paperwork signed. All the money's in there. Just got to kind of wrap it all up in a bow and get the remaining $4,000, which the attorney has. But yeah, hopefully I didn't bore you with that story. Hopefully this will help some people who are on the same journey. And thanks for watching. Look out for the next one.